Hello. Hello, everybody out there. I don't know why saying hello is always so awkward, but here we are. Hello. I still have my headphone microphone because guess what? I'm an idiot. I left it at my dad's house. I left. I left my whole microphone setup at my dad's house. I got it working at the other house. Probably a driver issue. But it's an hour away. Actually, I could probably text him. Let me see if I can text him. We'll see if that does anything. Hello. We are. What are we doing? We're planning. We're planning Halloween D&D one shot. So, let me just come over here. Hide this for a second. This is what we're doing. Halloween one shot. So, my players are a group of kids, um, all out trick or treating, and they're all part of the like D&D club at their middle school. Uh, and each kid is gonna be dressed up as their D&D character. So, yeah, should be fun. Um, so yeah, they're walking along, and they, knock on the next house, and they're like, trick or treat, and inside the house is a goblin. And they're like, whoa, that's such a cool costume. And then their DM gets kidnapped. Whoops. uh, so I'm not quite sure how I want to do everything yet. Um, so probably have neighborhood. Can I get one more? No, I don't like this yellow color. All right, neighborhood, the forest, which is kind of when they get like, um, the cave. No, not clairvoyance. The cave. Stop trying to be helpful. And uh, the fortress. Right. So 4 locations. They all need to be very short. So the neighborhood is. There we go. DM gets kidnapped. Puzzle inside the house. Something small. The forest. They have to, or maybe not a puzzle. Maybe it's a fight. I don't want too many fights. I don't want too much fighting. I want a little bit of fighting, but not too much. And I don't think their costumes work outside the D&D world. So, puzzle inside the house. The forest, we will have a puzzle that leads to a clue. Nope, not leads to Corlund. Leads to a clue and a fight. Goblins. Let me just. Where's my. Let's see. Encounter. My encounter thing is. In my session notes. Okay. Why are these now in here? Stop. How do I get out of here? No. Uh-oh. Encounter. Oh, did I delete something I wasn't supposed to? Is that why? There we go. Okay. Party. If I go into here and I go to. Where is it? Fantasy stat blocks? No, it's not fantasy stat. It's initiative tracker. And then I can go to players. Players here will be available to add to a party. If you do not have a party created, all players will be added to a new encounter. Okay, that's fine. Alexandra. That's not it. Just so I have them here. Penny. Kiki. And Pepper. If Pepper's coming. I haven't heard anything from Pepper. She's not very active in the thing, but yeah, okay. So, players. Nope, not Penny twice. Now, if I get out of here and I. Where's my initiative? Start encounter. Huh? Magic counter. Where's my initiative tracker? Help me. Initiative tracker and counter filter. Alex, Alexandra. Those should all be level 3. And I want to basically give them a goblin each. Goblin. Let me just. You're not playing! Or, Alex always said Queen Keisha Penny Pepper is 6. Your character sheet isn't saved. Difficulty is deadly? I don't know. 6 players at level 3 versus 6 goblins does not seem deadly to me. Oh, I guess if it's 400 XP. That's fine. Let's start encounter. My initiative tracker isn't initiative tracking, and that's annoying. Copy, counter block. Hello there, O-Pigs. I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna... Nope. There we go. This is... Forest players. And that should do it. Add to encounter. Why? Why it no work? Why it no work? Internet. Initiative. Tracker. Not working. Stop loading attack at any monster sub encounter. But I'm not sure if there's something. Uncaught in comments. Logging error remains even if logging option is turned off. Plugin settings after. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Let me try, let's see, initiative tracker. Let me try turning off. Finished my first campaign as a GM last week. Was fun. Oh, that's so awesome. That's so cool. Players said I did a good job. Well, that's all that matters. If your players had fun, hell yeah. Monsters from fantasy stat block. I thought I said all this last week, but huh. Fantasy stat blocks. I'm able to start an encounter that displays my party, their stats, and the creature, but there are no stats for the creature. see. Initiative tracker should appear on the right pane when the link is clicked at the top of the screen or encounter builder is used. Process was completed. But it's not fixed. Disabling all scripts and see if you can get initiative working again. And enable them one at a time, there may be a conflict. Oh wait, this is roll 20. Not Obsidian. Initiative tracker. Initiative tracker isn't displaying. I haven't changed the setting to parse to notes for monsters. Parse to notes for monsters. Roll embed stat block link content in. Yeah, sure. Flow healing. Roll creatures. Log battles. Even like the track I picked to play during the boss fight. That's so cool. Formula. Integrate dice roller, render dice rolls. Automatically parse front matter for creatures. Debug messages. Be that, I think. That should do that. Try to save data atomically. This will cost the plugin to save data to a temporary file. That's fine. I had a. Okay. Does this work now? Okay, I'm gonna try closing the program and coming back to it. This is not how I wanted to spend 30 minutes. Fantasy stat blocks, front matter parsing complete. I still can't fight this. This is so annoying. Why? City initiative tracker. Not popping up. It's not like there's no answer either, as far as I can tell. That's Foundry. Obsidian sync with initiative tracker. Currently popping. So when I try to access the
encounters on my laptop, they don't show up. Make sure your Obsidian sync is set to include community plugins and community plugin settings. Plugins write to the data.json folder when you exit the note. Hmm. Is it because I have stuff synced? Sync? Oh, well. Sync images, sync audio. Active community plugin list. Installed community plugin. It's not what I wanted to be doing with regular stream. Okay, well, it's fine. I will deal with that later. Or find a different initiative tracker is more likely. Even though I wanted to use Obsidian, I guess not. Fight. Fight goblins equal. Okay, then we have the cave. We want another puzzle. And probably another fight. Fight. I guess I should probably figure out. So in Costume Quest, this is a little inspired by Costume Quest. That's the soundtrack we're listening to. In Costume Quest, Big Bad is a giant skeleton who wants to eat all the candy to like take over the world or something. No, not the Well of Many Worlds. Stop trying to be helpful, Obsidian. Oh. Yeah, I can do that actually. Had a feeling the tunes felt familiar. Yeah. You can see in the little left bottom corner there what music is playing. Okay. So hmm. Okay, in this that shit is tiny. Well, I didn't want it to cover anything. Are you watching on mobile? That might be that would definitely if you're watching on mobile, that would definitely be too small, probably. Uh what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? Big Bad. Big Bad wants candy. What if okay, the Big Bad is from the kids D&D world and thinks
that if they kidnap the DM, they will finally win. uh, like the kid has powers or something, right? Um, they can force the DM to use godly their godly powers to let them rule the world. Right? Okay, that's good. That's good. So the cave fight is gelatinous cube because I actually have I actually have a gelatinous cube mini. It's really cool. It has a crack in it, but that's fine. Okay. They get to the fortress. The fortress has puzzle door. Because I love a puzzle door. I want to try to make, if I have time, because I'm also trying to make a costume this week. I used to have a gelatinous cube mini. It came in a plastic egg. Ooh! I have one that is big enough to eat minis. It's big enough. It's big enough that you can fit a mini inside of it, and I love it. I love it so much. It was silly, buddy. Oh, that's good. I like that. I don't know why I just assumed that you like somehow got an actual D&D mini in a plastic egg. Okay. Um so we have the puzzle door and the big bad boss. Is there a lich? I could use the lich. Why is it not linking to lich? Huh? Why did it tell me there's a lich stat block when there isn't? I just happy one of my jokes landed. Okay, let me get monster. Lich. Oh, I was spelling it wrong. I was spelling lich wrong. I don't know why I thought there was a T in it. Alright, let's lich. Lich, please. Lich, please. Okay. So, for our big bad boss, Lich. Lich's challenge rating what? Hey, Morte, how you doing today? Is throwing a Lich at a party of 6 level 3 characters too much? Halloween one-shots are sort of an annual highlight, not gonna lie. Hi, Luke! You're always the same color as Animor. I keep getting confused between you two. I think you want the party to die! Maybe it's, Who doesn't? I don't want to kill the party. Maim, injure. Maybe. It's Halloween. It's supposed to be spooky. Baby Lich. Well, here's the thing. Actually, okay, if I throw a Lich at them, scare the crap out of them, right? The spirit of spooky season come back as the undead. Here's the thing, though. The Lich, actually, I think the Lich is a girl for this one. I don't know why. Just I feel it in my bones. She thinks that if she kidnaps the DM, she can force the DM to use their DM powers to make the Lich win. But the DM can also power down monsters. It's supposed to be how the party became Liches as well. It's a one-shot. It's a one-shot. Okay. So I gotta think about puzzles. There's a puzzle inside the house to activate a portal. Let's see. Easy portal. Let's see. Ooh. Okay. Let's go to Clip Studio. Let's go to Clip Studio and let's draw this out. Subtitle for this one shot is "Oops, all Liches." The Lichdom contagion. Okay, as much as I want to do character sketches, I can't do character sketches until I get these puzzles sorted, okay? So... let's just get stitches. So first we have... neighborhood puzzle. Reopen portal. So... they're trick-or-treating at this house, right? House. I don't know why the house is trick. Anyways, they're trick-or-treating at this house, right? And then... sorry, I had to sneeze. Do I still have to sneeze? No, I think I'm good. Okay. I'm allergic to the world.
So inside this house. Uh-oh, we're going isometric on this bitch. Inside this house, right? There's a door at the back here. The monsters. And a door here at the front. The monsters kidnap the DM, and they go through this door, which has some words here. ISO is fun. Do more ISO. There's like an inscription above the door here. It's not good ISO. But that's how it appeared in my head. So ooh, 5-stream watch streak. Well done. Right. So this inscription, let's see. I totally don't have a dog in the ISO. Really, it's on them for thinking they could contain the DM in a normal building. The DM would require SCP level containment at minimum. It's not in the building. There's a portal behind this door. It's a portal to Faerun. It's a portal to Faerun behind that door. I think this session needs a house hunter. So the inscription is like combine the colors red, green, blue. Wait, this is just Penny's puzzle. Sorry, Penny literally just did this puzzle. Alaska family determined that portals to Faerun were most commonly opened by pissing on the wall wherever they were located. What the fuck? That's so funny. Let's see. Maybe there's not. Ooh, okay. Maybe there's not an inscription here. Maybe there's not even a door. Maybe it's an ornate like mirror. Ignis Terra Aqua because they're common enough Latin words that most people will know them. This door isn't a door at all. It's a jar. Okay, so it's a mirror, right? And maybe the mirror gets covered with a sheet. So they have to find the mirror in the first place. The mirror is covered with a sheet, and then once they find the mirror, maybe this house looks abandoned. And it's got like boxes. And like there's like an old table here, and this table has a rotating mirror here. The last song really sounds like something out of The Dig, an oft-forgotten LucasArts adventure game that I love. Clean that mirror. And there's a mirror like here on another table here. And then there's enough light through a window that you need to bounce the light off of these mirrors. So there's a bunch of stuff in here. Mirror covered in sheet. So there's like the light. Okay, the light is coming from in here. And you have to bounce it here. And then maybe there's another one here. You have to bounce it here and then here. So you enter from here, and the mirror is here. There's a mirror here, here, and here. And there's a bunch of other stuff around. So the light comes in through here, and then they have to adjust the mirrors. I love LucasArts games. I need to find this one. Yeah, LucasArts are good. LucasArts games are good. Can the entrance be in one place, but it takes you to somewhere else when you exit? I mean, it could. You mean like the front door to the house? Like to the room. This is like a one-room house, kinda, situation. Maybe there's another box here. And so you have to... Just to make this a little more complicated. Yeah. Okay. So, you kind of have to do that. And then when you get the mirrors lined up and you remove the sheet, the portal opens in the mirror. Like maybe there's some other doors like over here, but they're all blocked by stuff. If you entered as normal, when you exited, you came out of a neighbor's house. Like it's a glitch in a video game. the
That's really funny. But this leads to forest. They buy game keys. You're familiar with the website known as CD Keys? They buy game keys while they're on sale and sell them somewhere between the sale price and the original price. So most of the time, games are on there cheaper. Always worth checking all platforms available, though. Ooh. Um, so, in the forest, they need to figure out where to go next. So, how do they figure out where to go next? Um, how do they figure out where to go next? Puzzle ideas. So they go through the mirror and they end up in the forest. Oh, that's really cool. Sentient talking door. Classic. How do I get them through the forest? I like this idea of. Okay, this person says that this is on Reddit. I'm looking at Reddit. One that I really enjoyed running was a Venn diagram of fairy rings in a forest with ancient stone pillars in the center of each segment. I think there were 3 circles altogether. The players had to stand in the main segments and then place items in the overlapping parts that somehow linked them with their companions. When they did this, the pillars would glow to show that they were doing something right. So, I like this idea of fairy rings. I like this idea of fairy rings. So they had like a Venn diagram of fairy rings, right? And then maybe we'll do. The problem is I have 6 players. So if I were to do this, it'd be like this. Maybe, okay, 6 pillars. And a fairy ring in the center. And each pillar has
Are there 6? Ooh. Okay, each one of these is a stat. Each one of these is a stat. Um, like, uh, strong. Like, each of these has a thing on it, right? Strong in numbers. Okay, let's come up with an answer for each one of these, right? What is like a strength item that you could find in a forest? Like, let's see. Con is a mushroom. Maybe int is a scroll. Dex is a dagger. Ooh, an acorn. I like that better. Ooh, an acorn. It grows into a mighty oak, but it's unassuming. Yes. Okay, so strength is an acorn. Dex is. Why is Dex a dagger out of curiosity? Because I was trying to think of something that used Dex. But I actually like the idea of using specifically all like natural things much better. Dex is. Dex is that exploding plant. Wait, hang on. Let me find it. Exploding plant. It's edible. Jewel weed. Jewel weed. They explode when when you touch them. So they have these little like seed pods. And when you touch the seed pods, they explode. But if you can like carefully like wrap your hand around them, so like sleight of hand check here, right? Int is int is what is a charismatic plant or like forest thing? Is there a plant that like laughs? If I look up laughing plants, is that gonna be weird? Gosh, my inner Gregory here. I don't know which Gregory you're referring to. From the garden wall. Oh, okay, yeah. Good. No, not laughing cow cheese. Um, plants. Hmm. Oh, we've gone into Luigi's mansion. I'm gonna get sued by Nintendo. um, how do I turn off autoplay? Ah, there we go. You have it? You have what? Int can be foxglove. Ooh. Because it's clever, like a fox. That's good. I like that. I love how my players are not gonna get this at all. They're not gonna get this at all. Oh no. I'm so tired of politics. Just saying. I'm so tired. Maybe. Oh, wait, guys, what if it's not. What if it's not pillars? What if it's a dirt circle? So, like, there's like a dirt circle, and then they have to plant each of these things. So there's like a sign on each of these. There's like a sign here, right? And each of the signs says, ooh, white nightshade means liar, so it might be good for charisma. I like that. So each of these has a sign with like a little poem on it or something, and they have to find that thing. Okay, wisdom. That goes through the leaves as autumn covers fall. Dancing in a swirl of golden memories of fall. Puffball mushroom. Um, let's see. What if it's like in the night, shaded light. Acorn is um Mighty tree. Unassuming seed. Jewelweed. Ooh, in the night, shaded light, liar's delight. Mighty tree, unassuming seed. The jewelweed. A simple touch. A simple touch explodes. Exploding. Simple touch exploding. Exploding much? I don't know. Oh god. I need a rhyme dictionary. Explodes. Explodes as such. No. Simple touch explodes. A weed unstable requires a gentle touch if able. Ah, that's good. This is why I'm doing this on stream. You guys are so much better than me at so much. A weed unstable requires a gentle touch if able. Full of ingenuity. Requires a gentle touch if able. Let's see. A ball of fluff. A ball of fluff.
We still don't have a wisdom one. Let's see. Foxglove.
A clever flower. Clever flower. Prefers.
Hang on. Let me find. Um, flowers that bloom at night. Let's see. Wisdom. Moonflower. Let's blooms at night. Blooms at night, afraid of light. Charisma. Um, the language of in the language of briars. This plant means liars. In the language of the briar. The language of the briar. This flower says liar. Um,
Okay, puffball mushroom and foxglove. Or some other mushroom, honestly. Let's see. Poisonous mushrooms with uh edible lookalikes. Ooh, we could go with a chanterelle because their um their poisonous counterpart is a jack-o'-lantern. Um orange mushroom. Orange mushroom. If that isn't too on the nose, yeah. Let's see. Chanterelles, their furrow surface is composed of folds rather than true gills. More like wrinkles beneath the cap surface. Some species of chanterelles may look relatively similar to the poison jack-o'-lantern mushroom. Save a few distinguishing features. Where chanterelles have folds, the jack-o'-lantern has true gills. Also, where the gills of the jack-o'-lantern end abruptly at the same spot along the stem, the folds of most chanterelles run along the stem of the mushroom, ending unevenly at various points. Let's see. Late at night, the gills of the jack-o'-lantern glow a soft greenish light. Okay, we're not doing the chanterelle, we're doing the poisonous jack-o'-lantern. Let's see. Orange mushroom. Orange mushroom twins in light. Orange mushroom twins in light. This one glows. This one glows upon the night. Okay, now we just need the foxglove. Oh, shaggy mane is edible. I didn't know that. I didn't know that shaggy manes were delicious. Okay. Foxglove. Foxglove.
Wisdom is easy. Sage. Ooh. Um. hmm. I don't hate that. I like that. Sage. Let's see. Foxglove. Yeah, I'll get sage too. Plant. Often referred to as the holy herb. Holy herb. Might not be too bad to give the players a game and motivate them a little. Yeah, I'm not expecting them to get these poems. I'm expecting them to roll things and for me to tell them what they mean. Cuz that's what they tend to do. We're going to see a lot of nature checks and not a lot of using their brain. I'll tell you guys on Wednesday if I was correct. This holy herb. This holy herb is good for poison. Because it can be, has been used since ancient times for treating snake bites. Or poison. Maybe bites? It's good for bites. Um, often deters sprites. Sage is also used for like bad spirits. Let's see. This holy herb is good for bites. And even keeps back frights. Circular in shape, produced on a tall spike. Name derives from the Latin word for finger, digitalis. Genus was traditionally placed in the pigwort family. Best known species is the common foxglove. Hmm. Um, used in spells. Lavender for mental clarity. I'm looking up witchy herbs. Like uses in witchy stuff. Let's see. Lavender. Let's see. Witchy herbs for studying. Rosemary. Is it just me and my odd brain, or does the stage one sound like it's missing a syllable? Holy herb is good for bites and even keeps back nasty frights. I like that better, yeah. I like that. That's good. Thank you, Luke. Rosemary is often called the herb of remembrance. The herb of remembrance. Uh, that's gonna be hard to. Let's see. An herb
An herb to remember. Herb to remember.
Um, its leaves.
Herb to remember. Its leaves resemble the trees of December. I know it's a Halloween one shot and I'm referencing Christmas trees. Sorry. An herb to remember. Its leaves resemble the trees of December. Let me write this a little cleaner. So the forest puzzle is a ring of signs placed in fertile dirt, fertile soil. Am I dumb? Oh, yeah. I'm dumb. Okay. A ring of signs placed in fertile soil. Each one has a poetic clue on it. We have mighty, uh, mighty tree, unassuming seed. That one I might change. A weed, unstable, requires a gentle touch, if able. Nope, not if able. If able. Stop trying to be helpful. Orange mushroom. Orange mushroom. Twins in light. Orange mushrooms. Twins in light. This one glows upon the night. An herb to remember. Its leaves resemble the trees of December. I don't love that one, but I'm gonna keep it for now. This holy herb is good for bites. And even keeps away nasty bites. In the language of flowers, in the language of the briar, this flower says liar. This flower speaks of the language of the briar. This flower speaks of flowers speaks out liar. So this one, acorn, jewelweed, jack-o'-lantern, rosemary, sage, wait, I think this will take them long enough that I don't need a fight here. Um, the cave. We'll add 3. The cave will be a fight, and then simple puzzle. Simple puzzle. I don't want, because the problem is that we don't have very long for this one shot, so I want to try and keep it a one shot. But I still want it to feel full. Puzzle. Physical puzzle. Craft. If I had my 3D printers here, I could print stuff. I'd love for them to have, like, a physical thing. It'd be nice to have one of these puzzles be, like, a little bit Halloween themed. um... Puzzle door. Piano. Must play the right notes to continue. Ooh! One play correct notes to continue. And because I have a kalimba. I could give them a physical. Wait, let me go get it. Hang on. Okay, it's probably like wildly out of tune, but I had to put that very close to my mic to even get that much sound. I don't know if that worked. But I have a kalimba. It's not actually wildly out of tune. But this could be used as a puzzle. But what song to use? It has to be simple. It has to be simple. And it has to be easy to like convey. There aren't really like Halloween songs, you know? Like there are, but um uh yeah, I mean that's cute, but Let's do spooky, scary skeletons. It'd be really funny, actually, doing spooky, scary skeletons. Are there, like, D&D songs? There's not really. What are, like, songs associated with Halloween? Monster Mash. Thriller. I don't know. I want it to be like silly. It's not like Christmas. Like it could be if it was Christmas. It's just do Jingle Bells. Fear the Reaper. These aren't like these are like difficult songs. I mean, they're not like silly. What about? This is gonna sound really dumb. Uh, Takata. Takata and Fugue in D minor on kalimba. Be really funny. I feel like that's too hard though. Like as funny as that is, that would be too hard. Um. All right, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. I think. I think I like the piano puzzle door. Play correct notes to enter. Play correct chord to enter. Uh. No, they're not gonna. This is funny for me. It's not gonna be funny for them. Um. Let's see. One, puzzles. Puzzle.
A regular unlocked door, but with some kind of red herring. Maybe ancient runes, a saying carved into the frame, a weird shaped doorknob. um, so it can't be too complicated. Hmm. Maybe on the piano. There are runes carved into the piano. There are runes carved into the piano. There are runes carved into the piano. Um, Players must decipher the runes to play the password. How many keys does a piano have? How many keys does a piano have? 52 white keys, 36 black keys. There are 88 keys on a piano. Does an organ? I think an organ has more keys. An organ can have many keys, but a typical organ has at least 3 keyboards. 2 manuals with 61 keys each played on the hand, and a pedal board. Okay. So there's a fancy ass pipe organ, right? Let's see. Pipe organ. Keys. Layout. So like this pipe organ has two keyboards, right? Okay. So how many sounds in the phonetic alphabet? 44. The International Phonetic Alphabet has 107 letters for consonant and vowel sounds. International Phonetic Alphabet. This is getting complicated. No. The International Phonetic Alphabet currently has 107 independent symbols for letter sounds. Alright. Let me just. We'll just do. Let's see. Let me find some Elven runes alphabet. Let me just steal something from the internet. Hobbit runes alphabet. I love hobbits. No, I want like Elven. There are 2 versions. This one.
What if the password is password? What if the password is password? Can I change fonts? Format. How to? How do I? Can I switch font and using for Obsidian in just one place? Can I change font? Uh, no. So let's click on for a brief section of notes. You could put an HTML span directly in your note. Font family. Oh boy. Fonts. Anglo. Saxon. Yeah. Okay, what's the other one I have? The other one I have is dwarf runes. Let me try that one. Dwarf runes. Elven runes font. Legendary runes. I want something like Elven. I want something that like Dragon script runes. What if it looks like runes, but it's not? That'd be funny. This one is comic runes. I'm gonna try this one. This seems to work. Let's see if we make this comic runes. No? Maybe there's space in it. There's space in it. Oh, it's not doing it. Maybe because I just downloaded it. So like if I close it and open it up again, maybe it'll work now. Yeah, it does. Okay. So, I think this is really funny, actually. Um, um, what about like lich runes? Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, I like this one. Uh, this one is Whereas had um, HTML font size because I can't read this. Style equals um, font size 50. No. Font size and uh, font family. I'll just set the font size on the font. Hello, gift of Gabby. Welcome in. Figuring out HTML for a second. There we go. Okay. So that's our password. Um, that's our like our piano password, organ password. And then I'm gonna save this real quick so that I can get our new font into Clip Studio, so we can sort of plan this out a little better. Oh. I need a pipe organ like keys layout. Oh, this is perfect. So this will be the fortress. Over the garden wall. Yeah, we're listening to Over Garden Wall right now. Your name is Git. Okay. I can call you that. No problem. I'm gonna make this big so that I can get text on it. They, them. Cool. I am also they, them. I used to have a like thing that said it, but not anymore. I just realized I have to do something really quick. Pronouns, gang. Let's go. Yeah, I got pronouns and blue hair. Oh no. There we go. I fixed it. I fixed the problem. Okay. Oh, the sun. The sun. The sun is ruining my cozy vibe. Hang on. Gotta close my curtains now. I just want some light in my room, but the sun says, you want light? Then no screens. I need to prep, but ADHD says Sims 2 time. Mood. I'm running this one shot tomorrow. I'm running this one shot tomorrow, and I'm literally doing all of the prep. We decided we were gonna play this yesterday. I, for some reason, said I can run a one shot for Halloween tomorrow, and then realized what I had done. So. Okay. So this is the organ keys. And I need rings. Wait. This is not. What is my font? Bar. I'm almost ready to DM one game, and I'm planning it. It'll start as soon as my dad makes his damn character. Oof. A mood. A mood. My dad is also very slow. Is your dad Gen X? Because I feel like it's common. Dad, mom, sister, and her wife is one of my. Oh, nice. Yeah, me too. Me too. My actually, my siblings and I, well, some of them,
um play Baldur's Gate on Thursdays. So that's our like Thursday streams. Um yeah. We're almost to Act 3. We're almost to Act 3. So I think this week actually we should get to Act 3. But yeah. So if I take this, right, um, to I own Baldur's Gate 3. At some point, want to buy it for my sister-in-law. That's so nice. This is not quite. They need to be okay. I'm gonna have to shift this around, but it's good enough. Okay. Let's see if I have to adjust this again. I think I do. I think it has to be every other one. Maybe not. Wait. Okay. So I know there's 26 letters. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 31, 32, 34. That's a weird number. There's 34 keys, and I have 26 letters. 36 minus 13 is 20. Wait, no, 36 divided by 13 is 2. So, what is the midpoint of the alphabet? Just the 2 letters in the middle, M and N. Okay. So, I know what to do. I know what to do. I was close. LM. And then I need another one. N O M O. Okay. So now this should fit. I go like this.
until they sort of fit on the keys. Okay. Now I can do this. Now I can adjust. I don't know if my players are gonna get this puzzle. I don't I don't know if I've made my puzzles too complicated for them. You have D&D as a player. Have fun. If that's what you're saying. I don't know. I may be bad at reading. Oh, tonight. Oh, I see. Tonight. That's cool. I love playing D&D. I definitely I play. So I DM on Tuesdays, and then I have another game that I play in on Thursdays. Did I do this wrong? Oh, it's two. Yeah. I need to separate them like this. All right. Can I get feedback on a puzzle? Yeah, absolutely. I love to talk about puzzles. I'm not like a professional at making puzzles or anything, so I'll do my best to help you. really hope that my players get this puzzle and I'm not just like not just like being dumb. Or rather, like, I don't know if I'm making this too complicated for a one shot. Like, I know I want it to be longer than pennies. You find a clue on a plaque in a room that says shattered glass and broken dreams. You can glean when you finally see. The room has a pedestal with broken glass in it. What do you think the answer is? Got a clue on a plaque in a room. Shattered glass and broken dreams. You can glean when you finally see. My first thought would be to try and fix the broken glass. Yeah, I think my first thing would be to try. A lot of my characters have mending, so I would try to mend the shattered glass. Yeah, like either look through the glass or the glass shards are a jigsaw puzzle. Oh, yeah, maybe the glass shards are a jigsaw puzzle. Good idea, Kench. Bingo, look through the glass to see a hidden door to the big treasure room. Oh, that's cool. I like that. I wonder if there's like an easy drop shadow button. Clip Studio. I guess I could just do it myself. If a puzzle works also depends on the players you design it for. For one group, I was DM for all background, IT background. I was a DM for all had an IT background. Some worked IT, some had gone to school with an IT focus. So I used a lot of binary and hexadecimals in puzzles. Oh, that's cool. Unfortunately, all of my players have like a bunch of different like backgrounds and stuff. So I try to create puzzles that I think everyone will enjoy in my group, but you never know. Worst case, I'll just give them the answer and we'll move on. I just want to be cool. I just want my players to think I'm cool. Maybe I should do this the other way. So this needs to be lighter. I would accept other answers if they made sense. Yeah, I definitely would accept other answers. Okay, I need to stop messing with this. It's fine. The runes are carved into the piano. Now, how do they get the answer? How do they get the answer to this? Is the question. It's fine. I'm not dropping my tablet. It's fine. Also, hello, Edwin. I didn't say hello because I was too busy looking at your cool. What if instead of password it's just pass? So that's the jigsaw suggested show the layout of the room and shows a door they can't see. Oh yeah, that's cool. What if instead of just glass, it's like a mirror? So they reflect. No, glass makes sense. You're right. And then if they like hold up the glass, they can see the hidden door. That'd be cool. Um, what if it's not a cave? Funnier if the funnier password is the password. Yeah, password is the password basically. It says pass. Because I feel like 4 notes is easier to do. Actually, if you played password as a chord, I wonder how it sounds. But I want it to just be pass. Because I think that's easier. Even though password is funnier, I don't want them trying to guess a 8-letter word. That's gonna take forever. Okay. I'd give it to them if they guess password too though. Yeah, no, if they guess password, absolutely. They get it. They absolutely get it. On the on the pipe organ is just have them play the brown note on the piano. The brown note? What is the brown note? You're not trying to get me, are you, Kench?
Oh, you're talking about the G note. Makes all the emos shit their pants. They hear it, they go, oh god, it's time. The Black Parade, it calls me. You know, My Chemical Romance, The Black Parade, G-Note. Anyways. On the pipe organ. Let's see. Around the room. Around the room. Black Parade activates all millennials, not just emos. If you are activated by the Black Parade, you were emo at some point. That's a fact. That's a rock fact. How dare you? Wait, can I get a rock? I want to be Greg for Halloween, but I have less than a week to do that. How dare you say something so accurate? A lot of older religions have healing being related to cleanliness. What if a dungeon was a temple and a bathhouse to clean your body, soul, and mind? I love that. I'm gonna add that somewhere. Not in this campaign, but not in this one shot, but somewhere. Actually, let me. Temple. I'm gonna add that there for now. Okay. Completely irrelevant to what I'm doing now. I drew a joke artwork of Kobold in a Pope hat. And now I have ideas. It was supposed to be a stupid drawing. No, I love Kobold in a Pope hat. I love him. Um. I didn't realize that this playlist had the entire uh soundtrack at the end of the entire soundtrack. Oh well. We just listened to it twice. I didn't even realize. Too busy making puzzles. Magical. No. The fortress has the puzzle door, but the fortress should also have a magical long rest room. Take a nap. Players enter room and fail to. Door potatoes and molasses in Latin. Well, I lost my shit when I heard it the first time. Yeah, same. Players enter room and fail to find. Once they awake, once they awaken,
Yep, that's how that word works. Once they awaken, they have the effect of a long rest. His name is Lord Crumpt the Seventh, and he is way older than typical kobold lives. They live to be usual max of 150 years for kobolds. And the kobold pope is 170. Will this be an in-person or online game? This is an in-person game for personal stuff. I'm not like streaming this or anything. Uh, I do plan to stream D&D game at some point, but I don't know when. And I'm planning on streaming solo D&D at some point too. But I don't know when I'm doing that. Okay. Um Maybe we'll just have a fight in the cave. Let's see. Can I go to this thing encounter builder? Encounter builder. We have 6 level 3 players. And then let's see. Um is that too hard? The gelatinous cube. Okay, if um can I reset obsidian reset um that'd be cool. To play the first notes of the Phantom of the Opera. That'd be fun. I also think it'd be really funny. I was gonna say that. What if they played the notes of like a doorbell? Shut up. So apparently, to play the doorbell sound, it's just EC. So like if I was to do that on the kalimba, right? It might be the higher one. Hang on. That's really funny.
it's a doorbell.
No, the higher one is too high. I've been summoned to the front door. Imagine if I did get someone with that. That'd be really funny.
Doorbell noise.
Okay, I'm gonna put that somewhere. Um, because I like my piano puzzle. Play doorbell sound on kalimba to open secret door to fortress. Notes on wall reads ring doorbell and kalimba sits on. But no doorbell exists. How do I add the kalimba? When players read the note aloud, a kalimba appears before them. Alright, I like that. I love that. Okay. So we have some more difficult puzzles, we have some easier puzzles. A small beam of light must small beam of light must be directed to a mirror at the back of
I think we did it, chat.
PM Kid helps to power the lich, so it's I don't know why I really want to put a T in lich. I've been doing it all day. I think that's a one shot. Yay! Do you know what that means, chat? We have a little bit of time left. Do you know what that means? That means it's time for character design. Yay! My favorite. My favorite. All right. So we have the DM kid and we have the big the big bed. Okay. The DM kid is gonna be easy to design. I've kind of had an idea in my head for him. He's got like messy hair. That sort of like little kid haircut. Like big square glasses. All this lich talk inspired me for the TTRPG I'm writing. Oh, yay! No, he's like 11. 11 is like way past. I forgot. I don't know why I'm drawing him as like a little kid, but he's a middle schooler. He's not a little kid, he's a middle schooler. He might be the youngest, but even the youngest is like 11 for middle school. So, I still want to give him kind of big ears that he has to grow into. I like big glasses. It's like big. They just like big glasses, big square glasses. Alright, we're gonna go back to Costume Quest. He's got a little bit of acne. Still some kind of like shaggy haircut, I think. If you're gonna have a bard in the party, also add in some clue they can get with a performance roll. Oh, absolutely. I currently don't know like who is playing what, like what I know we have a wizard. I think we have a wizard. I think we have a wizard, but other than that, I truly don't know. Who's playing what. I love him. Look at him. He's so cute. Probably like a hoodie. That would be like his normal clothes would be a hoodie. But this is Halloween, so he's gonna be dressed up. definitely has some kind of hood, but I think it's like a cloak. Because I think he's like dressed up as the DM, right? He's like dressed up as. Because if he has like a normal costume, like if he has the other a D&D character costume, I have to explain why his costume doesn't let him transform. But if it's just like him with a cloak, first of all, I think that's really funny. But also, I have to explain less. Maybe he has one of those like waffle textures. Like it has like the waffle texture. It's basically just a long sleeve T-shirt. There we go. So here's the DM. I'll decide his name once I get everyone else's names, I think. And then we have like the Lich, right? Let's see. I don't know why the Lich is female in my head, but the Lich is kind of female in my head. I don't think it matters though. I guess it matters what like voice. I do. There's gonna be a skull. Actually, maybe I don't know. The Lich is non-binary. Non-binary Lich. Who cares about gender when there's evil to do? Unfortunately, I have a really, I mean, unfortunately, right now, I have a really cute art style. So there's not gonna be any kind of like realism here. It's just gonna be cute. There's a Lich. No. I want it to be cool. I kind of have this idea of. I feel like the Lich would probably not even have bits left to worry about gender. Yeah, exactly. So we have like. I want kind of like angular shapes. Lich so old they're non-binary because they forgot what they even were in life. How do I make a skeleton look evil? They just kind of look goofy, no matter what you do. Uh, the Lich from Adventure Time. They kind of give them like. I kind of just want to be really lazy about it. Horns? Skelly horns? Horns are cool. It's gonna look goofy because it's my art style. There's nothing I can do about it. So I can lean into it, or I can try to fight it. Oh man. I'm so bad at drawing like scary things. But maybe the Lich looks like this because the kid is bad at drawing scary things, so it's fine. What if it's just like a cloak? Like all torn up. And then he's got like skelly hands. Man, I'm so bad at drawing scary. Which hand? Also, I'm getting a ton of Adventure Time fan art, which is cool. I love Adventure Time, but like I, I can't just have one inspiration. I feel like I'm gonna have to hero forge this. I'm gonna have to do this off screen. We made some good progress though. To be fair, Adventure Time Lich is probably is by far the most well known. Yeah. Um. I don't see a black boot. Did I miss an announcement or? Maybe they're just really tired. I think they went to bed pretty late last night. I don't see anything from them at all. But it's not quite noon yet, so. But they haven't been in chat either. Maybe I need to pick someone else to raid today. Maybe I'll pick a backup. I'll pick a backup. Um. assuming I just didn't see it yet. Yeah, their stream announcements are very late. Generally. So, I don't know. But like they haven't been in chat either, and usually they like come into chat and like hang out. You got the movie night push notification 2 hours late? That's terrible. That's terrible. Why would Discord do you like that? I don't usually get them that late. So that's up. Um uh, uh hmm. But yeah, they might be late, and I don't see anyone to raid really. So I guess this is it. This feels weird. Thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out. Hopefully Blackfoot will be live soon. Um yeah. A reminder that if you're in my Discord, it's going down later this week. Please go follow Blackfoot to go join their server. That is where I will be. Thank you everyone who was new here. Please make sure to follow if you had fun. 2 people follow, that'd be nice. And you can get notified when I go live, and we can hang out some more. That'd be cool. Other than that, my game is tomorrow. So I'd better make sure I have absolutely everything I need ready to go. And I will see you all on Wednesday for possibly the final episode of Costume Quest, but there might be a few in November. We'll see. Thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out. I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye bye. Black is live!